Okay, so let me just share my screen. Can you guys let me know if it's visible? Is it is my screen shared and is the zoom size adequate? LXML web scraping strategy is, lexical XML. It's a really complex thing. But yeah, basically, it says that if there is an XML page somewhere, that can be scraped as well. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about this. So it is my opinion that coding, and again, this is I'm not making a prediction. I'm just thinking out loud over here that coding in 2025 is of two kinds only. One is you have some human effort, right? Then you get an error, right? And then you ask chat gpt or any other llm to help you in resolving that error, and then you paste that corrected code and try to move ahead. So this is workflow one. The second workflow, in my opinion, is llm generated code, not llm assisted, llm generated code, which the human corrects or improves. Okay. These are the two kinds of coding I see in almost everybody, not just students, but developers, professionals as well. Uh, the left one is called vibe coding. And in fact, there is a new job in town called vibe coding fixer or something like that. There is a job, yeah, vibe code fixers. So this is actually a job nowadays. So that's interesting, right? And the right one is called AI pair programming, where you are the pilot, but AI is the co-pilot. On the left side in vibe coding, the AI is the pilot and you are the co-pilot. Okay. So basically a kind of a homework slash philosophical question. Uh, what is the difference between a coder and developer then? In fact, let me just remove the homework part and let's just talk about that for a second. What do you think is the difference between a coder and a developer? Deployment, no. Innovation and understanding, no. A coder simply codes, whereas a developer develops something meaningful. That's good, but again, this is a philosophical question. I don't know the correct answer, but the point is that you should have an answer for this. Okay, you should create your own answer. My answer is that a coder simply codes, as Pradeep said, but a developer is a problem solver. So, for example, if tomorrow somebody says to me that I am getting stuck in this, and he or she shows me Java code, since I understand how to solve a problem, since I understand how to debug code, I know that I can solve Java problems as well. Have I worked in Java? Well, way back in 2017. Okay. Again, developer, engineer, whatever word you want to put there. In fact, in my opinion, if somebody comes to me with a physical problem statement as well, that boss, my bike is not running, what should I do? I might not know how to fix a bike, but I can say that, okay, let's call roadside assistance, or maybe you book a cab or you book a tow truck, right? That is the approach that a developer takes. They are always trying to solve for a problem, right? They are always trying to think about solutions, whereas a coder literally does just thinking about the task at hand. A developer, engineer they break the problem into small solvable problems, sub problems, right? Again, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with it correctly, completely. But what I do say, okay, what I would like to say is that you should have an answer. Okay. Okay. So let's start with the lesson then. So everybody knows about transformers? Yes, no? We have heard of transformers. We have had a class around transformers, right? Now, transformers are said to be the foundation of all Gen AI, right? In fact, so much so that I would say that transformers are just, sorry, LLMs are just transformers plus compute. And when I say compute, what do I mean? I mean infrastructure such as servers, data, uh, electricity, things like that. All of that, if you add a lot of compute, lot of servers to transformers, they end up becoming LLMs. This is a very, 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 very high level view, but this statement is true. This is a very high oversimplification, but yes, this is true. Okay. Now, we understand what LLMs are, but what are agents? Well, agents are LLMs plus reasoning and feedback. We so if I just do Gemini, if I open up Gemini, that's my preferred LLM. And if I say think about something and tell me. So it will show some sort of thinking. Yeah, it will show thinking, right? This is the thinking, right? It if you look at it, um, it will literally first think and then literally validate. It will validate what it's thinking, and only then will it start talking and give you an output. And this is it. And it has obviously disclosed my location, but that's okay. So yeah, and this is it. This is what an agent is. Thinking and reasoning LLMs are agents. Now people are saying, what are actions? Well, uh, technically feedback is an action. Feedback that it gives itself. Okay. Agents can work for us. Yes. We'll talk about the definition of agents much more. Okay, but this is a very high level definition. Everybody understood this definition? Yes, no? Why not SLM? Again, you can replace this with SLM. Kind of reinforcement learning, not exactly. This is not exactly reinforcement learning. Okay. Then there is a question. If these are agents, what is agentic AI then? So you guys were talking about actions, and they can talk about they can do our task and things like that. That is not agents actually. That is part of agentic AI. When you give the capability to an agent to perform an action, that agent plus that capability becomes agentic AI. If you have two or more agents that can talk to each other, that can discuss with each other, that can delegate one task to another, that can take some tools and do some research or something like that, that is agentic AI. So this is the difference between agents and agentic AI. And yes, agentic AI can perform tasks on our behalf, but very, very, very few agents can perform very, very few tasks on our behalf. Okay, is that understood? Agents is just LLMs plus reasoning and feedback. Okay, yes, a single agent can never be an agentic AI until and unless you give it some tools, some capabilities to do some action, which is a separate code that you will have to write. Can we say agent is like a body with Gen AI as its brain? Not, I don't know why nobody would say that. I don't know why you would, but yeah. Agentic AI is an ecosystem. Ecosystem is not the word that I would use, it's a framework. Okay. Examples of agents, I'll showcase examples of agentic AI today. What is reasoning and feedback? So when you think about something, or I hope that uh, what is environment? Environment is everything. The universe is the environment right now, Swaroop. But it's not relevant in this particular scenario, so you don't really need to know about that. Environment generally talks about reinforcement learning when we talk about reinforcement learning. With reasoning, do you mean understanding a problem or having context or something else? Okay, so let me talk about how I think. Whenever I think, I try to have the current perspective with which I'm thinking and the opposite perspective as well, so that when I have completed my thought, right, I have reasoned from multiple perspectives, right? So for example, if I'm thinking that okay, the sun rises in the east, and then I'll start thinking about the opposite perspective. No, it rises from the west. And then I'll think, but no, in my previous observations, all of my observations, the sun rose from the east, and it never rose from the west. So that is reasoning and feedback. Basically or some things like uh, uh, positive affirmations. The model is literally talking to itself and saying whether this makes sense or not, checking whether the output that it's about to produce, does it make sense or not. Okay, and you can do that with anything, right? And you can look at the Gemini output, and it will show you all of the thinking, right? So agents are reasoning LLMs. Okay. Yes, yes, Gemini does reasoning, so it's an agents. Please don't getting feedback to improve. Anjali, please don't confuse reinforcement learning with the uh, with agents. You do get feedback to improve your output, not to improve itself. Gemini does not use the feedback it gives itself to improve the model, but it tries to improve the current output and the current output only. Okay. Agentic AI and agents are the same? No. Agentic AI is when you have an agent and you give it an ability to perform an action, to execute an action, whether that be via some tool, via some API, or anything like that. Okay. Okay. So I hope everybody is clear around what are agents and what is agentic AI. Okay. So a very good question is, why crew AI? To be honest, I don't like it. I feel like it's unnecessarily complex. But it has a massive first mover advantage, like unbelievably amazing first mover advantage. And that is the reason, just how LangChain has a community, Crew AI also has a community, and they move at a very, very, very rapid pace. And there are other agentic AI frameworks as well, such as AutoGen by Microsoft and Pydantic AI by Pydantic, right? So those are also interesting, but they are, much slower. Okay. So we are going to talk about the agentic AI framework called Crew AI. Okay. So any questions before I move ahead? Can you explain LangChain and LangGraph once? No, not today, Anjali. That's not even close to the topic. Why not LangGraph? Again, you can use LangGraph as well. Very tough to learn reinforcement learning, sir. This is not reinforcement learning. Can I use two LLMs rather than agent to provide better response? You have basically created an LLM here, an agent here. Agentic AI example, agent provides CI/CD and GitLab access to perform auto deployment. Yes, that's a good example. Can I use two LLMs? That's creating an agent. Okay, is reasoning also next word, next token prediction at work or some other approach? That's quite intuitive, Jayesh, and quite astute. That's actually true, right? That's actually really true. It's at the end of the day, even the thinking is next word prediction. Heard Google ADK is also coming up. That may be true, but yeah. If you are an agent, the chessboard is environment. But again, Swaroop, I don't know why you are trying to add the concepts of reinforcement learning over here. The agents, and you will see that that the agents that we are talking about, or the agentic AI that we are talking about, doesn't really have an environment. Literally, the universe, the digital universe is its environment. Okay. Okay. So let's just talk about how to learn Crew AI in 5 minutes. Okay. Now, these are exact copy paste of the Crew AI documentation. So instead of copy pasting, I took a screenshot, and we'll dive deeper into this documentation. Okay. So an agent has 5 things. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So an agent has 5 things. One is, what role should the agent assume? Okay. Second, what is the goal of the agent? What is the task basically? Third, what is the backstory? Do you guys remember the unified prompt framework? Unified prompt framework. So role, goal, and backstory. Do you guys get the link? The context is the backstory basically, right? Background information, backstory, whatever it is called, background information, right? So these are the 3 things that we already know. The fourth thing is LLM. Okay, obviously you have to provide an LLM to the agent. And the fifth thing is tools. And we'll talk about tools. We'll in fact use the Serper Dev tool today. But understand that when you give an agent a tool, it is able to do something, execute an action, right? Okay. And when you execute an action, okay, then it becomes agentic AI. Okay. 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 I'll repeat this again. An agent has 5 things. The role you want the agent to assume. We all know why adding a role is beneficial. The goal or the task that you want the agent to do. The backstory or the context or the background information that you want to provide to the agent. Fourth is obviously the LLM, the model that you want to use. And the fifth is tools that we are going to talk about today. Okay. Any doubt? In action means what is the action? What is what? Where is in action? What? Where do you guys see in action? We are going to see tools in action today. That means that we are going to use tools. Okay. Okay. So you can import, okay, from Crew AI. Obviously, you will have to do pip install Crew AI. From Crew AI, you can import agent, task, crew, processes, LLM. Right? I don't really need to explain each of these. We'll talk about crew processes in a bit, but I hope you guys understand agent uh, and LLM, right? Task also we'll talk about in a bit. Crew AI tools we'll talk about it at probably 30 minutes from now. But I think agent and task are understood. Yes, no? Crew, why is there a question around crew? Okay, okay. Then even though you have defined a goal, you need to basically define an explicit task as well. Okay. So there is a class in Crew AI, the Crew AI package called, there's a class called task. In that task, you are supposed to give three things. You can give many more, but in that task, you are supposed to give three things. One is the description of the task. Okay. Second is the expected output. Second is the expected, where is it? The expected output. Okay. And third is which agent do you want this task to be performed by? Okay. High level GPU is not needed for Crew AI. Please. Sarup, please, you're confusing me and I think other folks as well. Stop making statements. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll repeat the task again. Uh, there are three things in the task. Why do we, first of all, we need to understand that why do we need to have a goal as well as a task? The goal is a very high level task, right? It is the end goal. It is literally like kind of like the outcome of your task. Okay. For example, a senior researcher needs to have the goal of uncover groundbreaking technologies in the years so and so. Again, this 2024, this is a screenshot from the Crew AI documentation. Okay. The task is where you describe how to reach to that goal. Yes, tasks are small, the smaller steps or the direction or the directives, or however way you can define tasks. And the task has three things. One is description, second is expected output, and the third is the agent that you want to attach this task to. Understood? Yeah, each task has three things. Yes. So we may have to define multiple tasks for a single goal. Yes. Good question, Jayesh. Again, we are detailing to get better results. Yes. Any other question before I move ahead? Okay. The final thing is that uh, so we have to create a crew. And as you can see, the crew is the agentic AI. And it's literally, in case you don't know, it's because of pit crew. right? Uh, yeah. So I hope everybody knows what a pit crew is. It's in F1 cars, F2 cars, things like that. F1 races, F2 races, right? And all of they work together really, really fast, and each person has one specific task. They achieve a goal, right? So this is where the term crew AI actually came from. Okay. It's okay. Maybe you can Google what a pit crew is later. It's okay not to know what the how did crew come up. Okay. As you can see in the crew, you have the agents as a list. Even if you're passing one single agent, you still have to pass it as a list. The task, which again is a list, and the process type. So there can be multiple kinds of processes. Today we'll only look at sequential processes, but there are hierarchical, cyclical, uh, splitting processes as well. Any guesses what a sequential process would be? One after the other, stepwise. Yes. Sync, sync. Okay. One after the other, right? So the order of the agents and the order of the tasks matter, especially when you have a sequential process. Is that understood? Kind of like pipeline, yes. Kind of like waterfall model, yes. Okay. Now, verbose equals to you're just printing out the logs of everything, right? Now, to actually run the crew, it's you have to kick off, right? Another term for run. For some reason, crew.run did not work, so they decided that let's use crew.kickoff. And all of the inputs that are to be passed in the agent or the research task, if you look at the research task, it has it has an input called topic. The same goes for the agent. It has an input called topic. All of the inputs are passed within the kickoff function in the as a dictionary to the variable or the parameter inputs. Okay, is that understood? Nothing too complex here. Why not? Why are we not using memory equals true in crow section? That's memory is a really complex topic. We are not even going to touch it today. Sure. Okay. Anybody who didn't understand, I'll repeat again. Is there anybody who didn't understand? Repeat again. What is AI agent in the value in dictionary? What? Oh, that's just a topic. The topic is strings. The topic is AI agents. Okay. It's literally a string. Okay. I'll repeat it again. So we have an agent created. The agent is the researcher. We have a task created, which is the research task. The research task is allocated to the researcher. Okay. Then we need to create an agentic AI, which how do you create that? We create that using the crew class. Again, if you remember all of our imports, agent, task, crew, process, LLM. We have talked about agent, we have talked about task, we have talked about LLM. Now we are going to talk about crew and process. Okay. Okay. Now, with the crew class, you have to pass three things, right? Three mandatory things. Agents, what is the list of agents within that crew? Tasks, what are the tasks that need the crew needs to execute? Obviously, in the task itself, you have defined which agent needs to do which task, and whether the process is sequential or is it some other kind. Okay, verbose equals true is an optional parameter. Okay, now we have an agentic AI. Okay, then what we need to do is run the crew, execute the crew, or kick off the crew. Okay, the dictionary meaning of kick off, I'll just look for it. Kick off. Yeah, the start or assumption of a match. Again, the start of an event or activity. Yeah, they seem to be sports fans. So start the crew. The input. Remember the task has a f string with input variable of topic required. Again, the agent has a f string with an input of topic required. And the topic is going to be AI agents. The inputs are passed as a dictionary. That's it. Verbose means just print the logs. Okay. One question. So we have multi-agents. In this particular example, we have only one, but I'll showcase multi-agents in the next few examples. Okay. No, you can use Gemini as well. In fact, so we don't need to use OpenAI. We'll showcase how to use. I'll show a multi-agent framework running with Gemini. What is the meaning of the last line with if statement? So basically, it states that execute the script. Okay. To make a Python script executable, you have to not a Flask statement, Anjali, but this can be added anywhere. And to make a Python script executable, all you need to do is write down this. Okay. 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 You can go through all of this, but we have talked about this. AI agents collaborate, communicate, and delegate tasks among themselves. Processes organize these interactions and the tasks. Tasks are assigned clearly, possibly with specific tools or agents required. Tasks are completed by agents using tools. Outcomes are produced, demonstrating successful execution, fulfillment of objectives. This take a row and go through. Let's okay. Crew AI framework is production grade. Do we have other such? Yes, there are many production grade frameworks for agentic AI. Tasks are written in simple English in the code. Yes. Okay. Before I talk about the mental framework, um, uh, can you, if you guys have any questions, I hope you guys have understood. So again, this mental framework is not that common. It's not that freely available because this is my particular mental framework when I'm working with Crew AI. Okay. Okay. So let's start. I'll not show the content over here. I'll just talk for a minute. Okay. Maybe in fact I'll stop the screen share. Okay. So in my head, whenever I think about crew, I think about uh, a company's department. Can somebody tell me some departments of an organization? Ops, HR, finance, IT, accounts, HR, R&D. Nobody's saying tech. Engineering, chalo, finally. Okay. Okay. Sales, IT. Okay. So when I think of a crew, I think of that as the department. The entire crew is a department. Okay. In each department, you will have people and each person will have certain specific jobs, correct? Yes, no? So each of these persons in my head are equivalent to an agent. Okay. These agents, so for example, if I am a person, not if I'm a person, I'm a person, right? Okay. And if I if I have to do a particular task, let's say I have to interview a candidate. Okay. If I have to interview, that's okay. Okay. If I have to interview a candidate, then I would need some sort of, you know, uh, meeting environment. For example, Google Meet, Teams, Zoom. That would become my tool. Okay. With the capability of that tool, I can execute that task. Or if my boss says, create a report that tells me which are the best colleges to hire from, then Google search I'll have to use, right? Maybe I'll have to go through some websites. I yes. So Google search and web scraping would become my tools. You guys are getting what I'm trying to say? Okay. Then, if there is a complex task, not one person, or a complex goal, in fact, not one person can solve it. I'll have to give it to multiple people. If I am the manager of the department, I'll have to give it to multiple people. Each person will have to do one specific subtask of the entire goal or task, right? And sometimes the tasks will be divided in such a way that all of the tasks are sequential. Okay. Sometimes there might be parallel work happening. So those are processes. This is my mental framework of understanding crew AI, or not just crew AI, any agentic AI framework. Okay. Uh, any questions? Do you guys want me to repeat it? Some some are saying yes. Dependent on other tasks to complete. Yes. I have created a documentation, but like I said, this is uh, the blabber of my brain, right? I don't think you will find this somewhere else. So maybe I have just how do I answer this? So I don't think there is any other any kind of documentation available to such a mental framework. Okay. 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 So let's just go with a research department. You guys see this research department? Let's take an example of a research department. Okay. What would be the agents in a, or what would be the job roles? What would be the, आप डेली यही ड्रिंक कर लेते हैं, आप थकते ही नहीं, अरे भाई, let's focus on the course, man, and let's focus on the project. Okay, so in the research department, the first person or job role or agent would be a researcher, right? I'm saying market researcher. Okay. Okay, this is a data science research department, so let me just rephrase this. Okay, uh, data science product research department. Okay, so if I have to create a data science product, which I used to do, right? What kind of department, I used to lead a research department, right? That was my crew. Okay, so the first agent would be market research. If I'm trying to create a product, yeah, that would be probably the second agent, right? Business analyst. But yeah, if I'm trying to create a product for data science, I need to know, is this something new or is it something that's already been done? And if it's already been done, then is it overpopulated? Is it done a bit too much? Right? So do I have scope of creating, like, would creating such a product even help me, right? What would be the second agent? SQLer is a good answer, or business analyst is also a good answer, but basically a data analyst, right? They are able to take the market research report, look at the data, understand the business domain, understand the data, and basically generate, responsible for collecting the data. Okay. Again, there are no wrong answers. Please, your answers are also correct, but these are my answers. Okay. So for a given product, can we have multiple crew? Jayesh, you can have multi-crew solutions are a thing. In fact, I was just building one in a tool called Na10, which you will be working on the 21st day. But yeah, I would not recommend it. It's really, really difficult. Okay. Okay. What Replit is, I don't know what. Then you have the data scientist. Okay. You need data scientist in your data science product creation. Yes, no? Yes or no? Right? Then you have a manager who is the orchestrating agent. He or she tells that, okay, market researcher do this, data analyst do this, data scientist do this, right? They are the planner, they are the identifier of tasks. Okay. Okay. What would be the tasks? Finding new improvements in existing systems and processes, because ultimately at the end of the day, all data science products, they try to improve some existing system. It is very rare that there is a data science system that creates something new altogether. They are only working on existing systems or processes. Okay. Collecting data, internet search. This would require tools like internet search capability, web scraping capability, storage organization capability. These would be tools, right? Okay. analyzing data. Again, remember, data analyst is not just supposed to collect data, he or she is also supposed to analyze the data. R&D, creating reports and publishing reports and data. That is the role of the manager. These reports will be sent to the CEO. And again, it's perfectly fine if you don't agree with me. But the point I was trying to make is that the department can be converted into an okay. Any questions? Do you guys think that I wrote the right tasks? Yes, no? I see that many of you disagree. My voice is breaking sometimes. That's is it better now? Okay, I apologize. So, as I was saying, no role for developer or coder. Again, you can add those roles. Uh, is it still not okay? Is it okay? Okay. Okay. You can add roles, you can add tasks, but the point of that I wanted to, point I wanted you guys to understand is that you should be able to think with this mental framework. Okay? Everybody understands this framework? Shall I move ahead? Okay. Okay. So, Uh, right now, I'm showing you guys again something with OpenAI, but when we actually do work with it, we'll not be doing OpenAI, we'll be doing Gemini. Okay. The content creation workflow or content creation crew. Okay. We'll just be importing things and setting up the OpenAI model. Okay. The first agent that I want to define is the planner. Okay. The planner is going to, it's the role is going to be content planner. Okay. The goal is to plan engaging and factually correct, accurate content on topic. Again, the topic is an input. Okay. The backstory is you are planning a blog article on topic this, and you collect informative content to educate the audience and enable informed decisions. Again, remember, we are trying to create a blog. Okay, so this is the planner agent. Okay. Then, so allowed delegation equals false. By default, it's true. But I don't, I don't want any other agent to do this task. I want the agent that has the planner role to do this task. Topic is the input that we'll be providing at the time of crew kickoff. We'll be passing it in the inputs parameter. Okay. Okay. Then the writer agent. Again, the role is fairly simple. Content writer, write an insightful, factually accurate opinion piece about topic. And backstory is you're writing an opinion. Again, the backstory is, not, I mean, the words are not that critical in Crew AI, to be honest. Allow delegation basically, like I said, in a multi-agent framework, the default nature is that if a particular agent fails, you can delegate this task to some other agent. This is something that I don't want. And like 99% of the times, you will have to do this explicitly. Allow delegation equals false, because you will be creating such agents only. Okay. Okay. An editor is the person that edits the blog to ensure that it aligns with the organization brand guidelines and organization style. If true, does it result in error? Not really, but the output accuracy or output performance is not as good. Okay. So you review blog post ensuring journalistic best practices, balanced viewpoints, and avoidance of controversial issues. You want each agent to do its tasks and not to pass it to anyone else. Yes. Okay. So I want each agent to do its task, not to give it to anybody else. Okay. So I've defined agents. Again, I'll repeat, there's a planner agent that plans the content. Okay. There's a writer agent that writes the content, and the editor agent that ensures that the edit copy is perfect. Okay. Any doubt here? The code is not that difficult, right? Okay. Then we have to describe the tasks. For the planner agent, you have to you have to give a description. And one thing, in my personal experiments, okay, so in the official Crew AI documentation, they have shown triple quotes, right? So a multi-line string in Python is written with triple quotes. Okay. But in my personal experiments, um, I found that writing this way gave better results. And I don't really know why. I haven't got dive deep into the code of Crew AI, but this is what I have seen as outputs. Okay. Instead of multi-line comments, multi-line strings, you can pass everything as one single line. I have no clue why, Shivang, but this is my personal experiments. Okay. Okay. So highlight for the planner agent, remember, highlight latest trends, key players, and notable news on topic. Again, the topic is an input that we'll give when we are kicking off the crew or when we are running the crew. Identify target audience interest and challenges. Create detailed content outline, basically the table of contents of the content. Okay. The intro, the main points, the call to action, CTA's call to action. Include SEO keywords and relevant resources. Okay. What is the expected output? Detailed content plan, including outline, audience analysis, SEO keywords, and resources. Okay. Okay. Then the agent, is my voice still breaking? So many of you say no, some of you say yes. I think it's 50-50. What is it? So let me just turn off my video for maybe 5 minutes, and then you guys can tell me after that. No, sir, it's fine. Uh, it's okay. चलो ठीक है देखते हैं. Okay. 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 Then we have the right task. Again, write compelling blog post using content plan that has been provided over here. Integrate SEO keywords naturally. Create engaging descriptive section subtitles, structure clearly, proofread for grammar and brand voice consistency. Again, this is something that you guys can create, right? This is not nothing new. This is almost equivalent to prompt engineering. Yes? Okay. Okay. Uh, then the expected output is again markdown formatted publication ready blog post with structured paragraphs. The agent this task is being allocated to is the writer. Okay. Then the edit. The edit task is proofread the blog post for grammar, clarity, and alignment with brand voice. Expected output is finalized markdown blog post ready for publication. Agent is editor. So I've turned off my video. We can come back to the Swaroop. I will literally, Swaroop is just asking random questions and making random statements. I don't want to kick you out, Swaroop. Please don't make me do that. Okay. Yeah. So these are the tasks, and yeah, that's it. We understand the agents and the tasks. Fairly simple. And now we first define the crew. Okay, this is not going to be true. Just a second. Yeah. Okay. First, we define the crew. Again, the crew is the planner, the writer, the editor. Then the tasks, the plan, write, edit, and verbose equals true. Okay. And then we do kickoff. What is meant by verbose? Verbose means that print out all of the logs and everything in between, include everything between the logs and the outputs and everything in between for the kickoff, for whenever the code is executing. And the topic is artificial intelligence. Okay. Process by default is taken as sequential. Correct. Thank you, Aisha. I was just about to point it out. Okay. But for good reading practices, okay, I'm just going to just give me a second, guys. Where is Swaroop Python? Okay, so that's pretty much it. Everybody understood? Do I need to explain anything? Okay. There is another example, which is basically your submission, but yeah. Okay. Can I turn back my video on? Okay. Okay. So let's code our market analyst, right? That is the topic of the day, right? So let's just code our market analyst. To code our market analyst, you will have to install Crew AI. There's a separate library for Crew AI tools. In fact, I would strongly recommend that we go and look at it. So it will give you, there should be a table of tools. Where is it? Yeah, this table. Okay. This contains all the tools that you can use, including GitHub search tool, Firecrawl search tool, directory search tool, CSV search tool, DALI tool, code interpreter tool, Apify actors. I don't even know what that is. Okay. Postgres search tool, Vision tool. You see a pattern. Most of the tools are around searching. Why do you think that is? I'll answer your question, Shivang, in a bit. Where is LangChain? Where do you guys see LangChain? Where? What? So, most of the times, your agents, your AI agents, LLMs with thinking and reasoning and feedback, they already have a lot of power, right? What they won't have is new information. So most tools are designed to add new information. Remember the dynamic search, dynamic data from the previous guide around RAG? Most LLM agent tools are built to support that, because for other purposes, your these Gemini 2.5 flashes or 2.5 pros or GPT-5 or 4.0 or O1 or O3, all of these are really, really powerful already, right? So LangChain Google Gen AI, we are going to use for any guesses using Gemini. Okay. Okay. Any doubt till now? But they are not drag based. Yes. Okay. So from Crew AI, we are going to import agent. We obviously need to create an agent. We need to create a task. We are going to need to create a crew. We need to create a process, and we need to have an LLM. Okay. LLMs cannot do searches. They cannot execute actions, and that is why these are the most popular kind of tools. Okay. Okay. Again, remember, LLMs nor agents can actually do actions. They are when you add agent when you add tool to an agent, that is what is agentic AI. Agentic AI can take actions. Okay. Okay. Crew AI tools. From Crew AI tools, we are going to import Serper Dev tool. What is Serper Dev tool? Let's just look at it. Serper Dev tool is a specialized tool for development. This is not a good definition, but let's do something like this. Serper.dev. Yeah. So, yes, good. LLMs plus tools equals agentic AI. Okay. What used to happen is that LLMs had to be, defined as thinking and non-thinking LLMs. If you remember, there was a huge uproar when ChatGPT 4.0 came into picture because it added the capability of thinking. Before ChatGPT 4.0, there was no thinking LLM. There was no reasoning LLM, right? Nowadays, we think we just assume that thinking is a part of all LLMs, but that's not really the case. If you think about 3.5, GPT 3.5, it was, but again, DeepSeek is not an LLM alone. It's an agent, right? And it came back when DeepSeek. I think GPT 3.5 when it came, DeepSeek did not exist. In fact, when GPT 4 came into play, DeepSeek was just starting, right? And GPT 4.0 and DeepSeek launched almost simultaneously. Okay. And 4.0 and DeepSeek R1, if I remember correctly, yeah, R1, R for reasoning. Is my internet breaking still? That's just disheartening. Okay. Okay. I'll not ask this question and I'll just assume that my internet is fine and it's your problem. Okay, guys. I don't want to interrupt the class again and again for that. But yeah, as I was saying, that it we just assume that thinking LLMs are the norm now, but they were the rarity. And thinking LLMs were the agents of the past. And now we have to differentiate between what we used to call agents and what we are calling agentic AI. Okay, so that is why there is this confusion, and slowly and steadily, uh, the term agentic AI might be subsumed by the term agent. Okay, okay, okay. So what does Serper do? Can anybody guess? It's a yes, Serper Dev tool. There's a tool called Serper Dev tool which we are going to import. Can anybody guess? When this is the Serper Dev website, the homepage. Can anybody guess what will it do? It it is going to do Google search for us. Is paid. Okay. But this one is also paid, but yeah, you can do 2,500 free searches. Only 2,500 free searches. Okay. But I think this one is adequate, right? 2,500 is adequate for us. I don't think you guys are doing 100 searches a day. How many of us are doing 100 searches a day? If you are doing that, then and then only the your quota will be finished, right? So we are going to use this tool. Okay. And any guesses why we need to import this from Google Colab import user data? Total 2,500 for Colab secrets. Yes. As you can see, as you can see, I have my Serper API key as well as my Google API key stored in the you know secrets. Why not any other than Serper? I mean, it's easy to use, and to be honest, there is another one called Tavily, which I'm going to showcase on the last day, but it does the same thing. Okay. 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 So we need to initialize the LLM model. The model I'm using 1.5 flash because I was out of tokens. But don't use 1.5 flash. You will not be getting good results. You should be using 2.5 flash or above. Okay. Then obviously the API key. Not much to explain over here. Okay. So if you go here, you will get your API keys. Let's just see. Yeah, so if you go here, you will get your API keys and you can create another API key or you can, do anything, right? So creation of the API key should not be difficult. Here's the link to create it. Okay, you will need a Gmail account to sign up. Yeah, okay. There is one thing to take note. The Serper Dev tool only accepts the environment variable. You cannot like set it explicitly. The API key has to be an environment variable named Serper API key. Okay. This is a very minor quirk of working with the Serper dev tool, and you guys need to remember this. Okay. 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 So the let's create our researcher agent. The role is going to be market researcher. Find and analyze the latest industry trends in AI. Okay. You are an expert market researcher. You're skilled at finding the most relevant and up-to-date information on any given topic, etc., etc. Fairly similar to the content generator, right? Creating a writer agent, write compelling and engaging blog, create engaging and informative content. Again, the role is the content writer, the goal is this, and the backstory is this. I will allow delegation. I'm perfectly fine with delegation for writing tasks. Okay. Okay. So these are my two agents, my researcher and my writer. Do I need to explain these agents? Yes, it is mandatory to name the Serper API key as Serper API key. This is going to be mandatory. This piece of code, you should not be changing when you're running this. Okay? Anybody has any doubt in this? You guys see, I want people to have doubts because I've not explained it fully. What is Super Dev tool? Serper Dev tool. So we create a Serper Dev tool. We call it search tool and we pass it to the researcher as tool. So again, remember this is a list and you have to pass a list of tools. Okay. Why delegation is true to be in the researcher agent? I didn't care. I don't want the research agent to delegate the task, but in the writer agent, to be honest, I didn't care if the researcher is going to write because you know the I mean I just wanted to showcase that you can also set it to true. It is true because I want to show you something in the output and you will see that. Okay, just wait for the output. We'll talk about why it is true. Okay, so everybody understands that we have initialized two things, the Gemini LLM using the LLM class from the Crew AI import. We have initialized the Serper search tool or Serper dev tool as search tool using the Serper dev tool class from the Crew AI tools import. Then we have created two agents. One is the researcher and one is the writer. Any doubt around this? Why we use tools? Why we use tools? Because Shivan, at the beginning of the session, I said that agentic AI, if you have an agent, right, it can decide that this XYZ action needs to be taken. But to take that action, you need to provide a tool to that agent. Okay, Shivan? Okay. So writer agent can pass the task to above researcher agent? Yes. To take that action? Yes. Okay. So now I'll create the task and again it is fairly similar, nothing new. I just have a description. Research the latest AI trends In AI, your research should focus on more significant advancements, emerging technologies, and key players. The final output should be a detailed report with your findings. A comprehensive report summarizing the latest AI trends is the expected output. The research task is allocated to the researcher agent. Anything new? Okay. Then we have the write task. Again, write a blog description based on research findings. Blog post should be engaging, informative, and accessible to a non-technical audience. It should highlight the key trends and their potential impact on the future. A 500-word blog post on the latest AI trends is the expected output, and the agent is writer. Not much to talk about over here as well. Anybody, any doubts here? Did we explain the input? Yeah. Over here, we explained the input now. Okay. Then let's create the crew. The crew is going to have two agents. The first one, the researcher. The second one, the writer. The tasks are going to be research task and write task. And the process is going to be sequential, and verbose is equal to true. And I want you to remember that the writer agent can delegate its tasks. Okay. It will come, you will notice that in 2 minutes why I set it to true. Okay. Okay. Then we do marketing crew dot kickoff. Since there were no inputs, there were no variables, you don't really need to provide any inputs. Okay. So let's literally just look at the output. First, I'll show you guys the length of the output. Okay. This is the length of the output. This is the length of the output. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll look at some aspects of the output. Where did I go? I scrolled way too up. So the crew execution started. That is the first log. And we are seeing all of this because we said, uh, you know, uh, verbose is equal to true. Okay. So the crew ID is this. Default, if you did a name to the here, okay, then your crew, the name of the crew will be crew. Not speaking anything. I've just turned on the video again. But yeah, I hope to get it into a better internet connection anyway. So crew execution started. The name is crew. This is the ID. If you have any tracker or any observability tool, this is the ID by which you search for the particular crew's execution. Okay, the logs of the execution. Okay. Everybody understood this part? Okay. Okay. Now the agent has started. Which agent? Remember, our first agent is the researcher. So the market researcher agent will start. And what is the task? The task is whatever we gave in the beginning. So research the latest trends in AI. Your research should focus on the most significant advancements and so on and so forth. Okay. So for each task, there will be an ID associated with it, just in case. Again, if you have an observability tool, something like OPEC, VLLM, Agent Ops, Langsmith, things like that, you can search the logs for each task using this ID. Okay. Now to execute the task, using search the internet with Serper. Okay. So the agent is market researcher. The thought of the agent was tool code, and it thought to itself, the agent thought to itself, I need to find information on the latest trends in the AI industry, focusing on advancements. I'll start with a broad search and then refine my queries as needed. And the search query it started with latest trends in artificial intelligence. Isn't this amazing? Did we give the query? Did we give the query? Yes, no? Did we explicitly say search latest trends in artificial intelligence? And the agent was able to figure that out on its own because of its thinking, because of its reasoning, because of its feedback. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to talk you guys through the tool output. This is literally just Google search page output. Uh, you can go through it. In fact, you will have to go through it. Okay. Then it said the first search is done. Now I'll be searching again. But let's understand why. The search results provide several links. I will review these resources to synthesize a comprehensive report. The IBM, Microsoft, and Stanford links seem particularly relevant. But it's going to search another time generative AI trends. Absolutely amazing. We did not give this query. The agent thought on its own and figured out what query to give and literally executed with the tool, hence becoming the agentic AI. Isn't that amazing? The searches are complete, and the market researcher isn't tar dangerous? I don't get your question, Tanmay. The market researcher provides a final answer. Latest trends, a comprehensive report. This is section one, generative AI dominance. There are some topics: content creation, customer service, software development, scientific research. Emergence of multimodal AI is the second topic. Enhance virtual and augmented reality, improve robotics, advance medical diagnosis, the rise of AI agents. Again, absolutely amazing. Focus on explainable AI. Perfect. Ethical considerations and regulations, key players, future trends. All of this is being completed by the market researcher. How much effort did we put? How much prompt engineering did we do? We did like maybe 3, 4 sentences. That's it, right? Yeah. Okay. What happens once the task is completed? What is dangerous, Tanmay? Isn't that dangerous? This can be done for niche categories too, right? Yes. As long as it is searchable by Google, it can be done. Okay. Uh, then you have content writer. Okay. And again, the just for logs, it just spits out the task. Okay. And it tried to delegate the work task to the coworker. Isn't it? It's giving okay less prompt giving answers. I wish you would rate it better. Is it is on its own with less prompt giving answers, bhai sahab. Okay. So uh not really. Uh the best prompt engineer is not human. It's an LLM. And LLMs understand how to talk to LLM agent, whatever you want to call it. And LLMs understand how to talk to other LLMs much better than humans understand how to talk to other LLMs. Okay. Okay. So as you can see over here, that the writer agent, even before starting work, it tried to delegate the work to the coworker, and it failed because of some error in within crew. Okay. Then again, acha, just a FYI, delegation is an internal tool. We don't think of it as a tool because there's no separate API and you don't have to add it into tools. But technically, delegation is a separate tool, is an internal tool. Then it tried to the writer agent tried to delegate the work to the coworker again, and it tried to delegate to the coworker again, and it thought to itself, I encountered an error while trying to use this tool. This was the error. And then it thinks all the things. Okay. So finally, on the fourth try, delegate work to coworker executed. And again, there's no particular reason to put allow delegation equals true other than the fact that I wanted to show you guys how delegation works. But if I was creating this for production or some POC or something like that, I would set delegation equals false. But I wanted to show you guys how delegation works. Okay. And it literally takes the entire task and the report and it gives it to the researcher. Okay. And for some, the researcher is trying to, this is just uh, some content. This is just some internal crew AI content. We can ignore it. So again, but even after successful delegation, the coworker refused. So instead, why LLM delegate to other coworker? For no particular reason. There's no reason. Okay. Instead of delegation, after failing 3, 4, 5 times, what the writer agent does is it tries to ask a question to the coworker. Okay. The question is, could you please verify the 33.9 billion private AI investment figure for AI in 2024 cited in the report, etc., so on and so forth. And again, now we didn't give, did we give the market research, the writer the tool? No. But what it does is it tries to search the internet again for global private investment in AI 2024. Basically, a lot of communication, intercommunication, and communication with the internet is happening. Okay. And we get the file after a lot of time. If I go through the output, I will not be able to finish the class in time. So what I'll do is I'll talk you through the final, I'll show you guys the final output. The final output is this, and it is a proper blog. It is a proper blog with the, it says the AI revolution, navigating the latest trends, artificial AI. Again, this is a proper blog, an absolutely amazing blog. So What do I want you guys to do? So can you summarize the output in 30 to 40 lines? I want each and every one of you to go through this output. You can create another one, and to be honest, you have experiment number 2 over here as well, which I didn't walk you through, but I would like you guys to create it as well. But I understand that you guys already have a lot of submissions left. So I wanted to make it slightly simple. So this is a massive, massive output. Yes, no? What I want you to do is to go through it. This may take maybe a couple of hours or maybe less, but I want you to create a summary of this output. And to be honest, I will not be able to tell if you use ChatGPT or something like that, but I strongly advise not to do that. Okay? So this is it. A TXT file containing all of the events in the output, just the summary text. Okay? We'll still have to publish it on GitHub or Google Drive and then share the link. Okay? But this is it. Yes, you should ideally read the entire thing and write the summary on your own. You can use ChatGPT, not just with ABCD, but preferably uh, with some meaningful text. It's just a .txt file would do, right? And you can use ChatGPT, but I wouldn't advise against it because then you would not learn. At least you should try creating it on your own once. Okay. So I'll be uploading the notebook and you guys should run the code. Then the code run will take around 10 to 15 minutes. Just a FYI. Okay. And then you can basically uh, a request for you to give a walkthrough of the output. That's Shivang, that's literally the assignment. How can I do that? Okay. This is not a tech task. This is a tech task, sorry, technical task, because you have to understand the technical output. Okay. Just a reminder that for the last project, which is the 21st project, you will have to have a Docker on your laptop. Okay. This was talked about in the orientation as well. Okay. Any more questions? No, we'll not learn about deployments. Where we submit our assignment, Diksha, you just upload it to a GitHub and then share the URL in the submission form. No, not AWS. We are going to use something called NA10, and the free version of that is only available via Docker. Okay. Yes, NA10. Yes. We have to summarize the blog post generated or the whole process of the agents involved in it, the whole process, Jayesh. What is NA10? NA10, we'll talk about that in on Sunday. But again, Shivang, please install, and everybody else, obviously, please install Docker on your laptop. Can we upload the drive? Yeah, you can do that. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody.